Hello, so welcome to another Schubert tutorial. This is the one, number one. Okay, it's in C minor. It's it's the least. I think it's the least enjoyable of the four of the Opus 90 set, but it's got some really nice bits in it. Two really nice bits, and for those two bits it's worth doing of playing these impromptus. It doesn't actually make sense just to do one or even two or three. It's got to be the set, and once I can play the set, then I feel much more satisfied. It's much more satisfactory. It's not worth doing just one. So I've recommended in previous videos we start with number 4 and do number 3 and then number 2, and while you're doing each of those number 4, number 3 and number 2, you do a little bit of the first 4.5 pages of the first one, and it works very well. It's certainly very helpful for if you're anyone like me who doesn't really like the number 1 impromptu. It's much more difficult than the other 3. Much more difficult. Why is it more difficult? Not from a technical point of view, although there is that. Well, no, it's not really at all. No, it's not really from the technical at all. It's technically, easier than number 2, for example. But it's not easy to memorize, really. But having been working at this for quite a while, I have come up with some hopefully helpful strategies to help you work this thing out. So number 1 is to go through the first 1, 2, 3, 4, and I would even say 4.5 pages plus the coda of the end anyway of this impromptu, the last measures from 193 to the end of the impromptu. That's about 10 measures. We're at the very end, because you can attach that to the 4th page. If you stop at the 4.5 sides, then you can go straight on to that ending, and it sounds quite nice. You can sort of have it as a little impromptu. If you do that, it's basically not that much shorter than number 4 or number 2. It's almost as long. It's certainly, it's 1 page fewer than both those impromptus. So because they're 6 pages and you would have done 5.5. It's half a page shorter than numbers 2 and 4 if you just do the first 4.5 pages plus the coda. So it's basically 5 pages. Okay, instead of 6 pages, which is number 2 and number 4, this is 5 pages you're doing of number 1. It's 11 pages and it's 11 sides in total. You're doing 5 sides in total, 4.5, and then plus the half a page at the very end, or less than half a page. So that's the first tip I'd definitely give. The second tip is let's go through this impromptu. The way it works is he splits into groups of 4, usually in this, not always, but usually in this first impromptu, and so that immediately helps. He repeats everything basically twice, or you could say the same thing is repeated 4 times, but it's basically twice in 2 sections, and 2 times 2, and then so that's one important thing, an obvious thing to see, but I'll explain how that works for the first sort of march theme bit before we get onto the arpeggio section. And that's the first thing. And then the second thing to think about is the structure of it. I worked out that the structure is A, B, C, A1, B1, C, A. So it's more or less. So that's the basic structure. A, B, C, and then A1, which is almost the same as A, B1, which is almost the same as B, and then C, almost exactly the same again, and then A, almost exactly the same again. So A1 and B1 are the most difficult, I would say, probably. But nevertheless, at least that gives you some kind of a structure. Okay, it's A, B, C, A1, B1, C, A. It's not exactly C again, it's not exactly A again, but more or less. So that'll be helpful as well. And what else? Yeah. Now I just want to go through this opening kind of march theme, which has taken me quite a while to do because I haven't had the patterns, which I'm now going to share with you. So, patterns are as such. Opens with a big G chord, octaves. Push the camera down. Okay, now. Having done that, the first 1, 2, 3, 4 measures, and the beginning of the fifth, they're all just with the right hand. Okay, the next 1, 2, 3, 4 measures, 4 or 5 measures, is with chords. Okay, yep. Etc. And that pattern happens again with here, starting on the D. So it's starting on the B, then you have the chords for that, which is a D chord. And then, so that's the first two. The second two start on the D with a simple right hand, and then the next 4 or 5 are the chords for that, which go with that, which are okay. And so that is the first 4 of these. I mean, it's the first 2 really, but if you like, it's 4. It's the first 2 melodies. Really. It's the same melodies in different keys. In a different with a different tone. So that's relatively easy. Then after that we come to the more tricky ones where there are no sort of single line, right hand or left hand. It's now chords all the time, but there are patterns. I just want to say that there are patterns for those 2 or if you like 4 melodies that I've just spoken of. That's from measures 1 to measure 16. Okay, 15, 16, 17 even. The pattern that I want to point out, because it can be quite a lot to sort of take in, even though it's quite simple. They're quite similar but a little bit different. So you just got to work all those slightly different chords and things out and memorize them. But what I found has been very helpful is when there is only one hand doing a chord, except for an octave on its own. An octave I'm not thinking about. There are a few times when it's just one hand does an octave and then there'll be 2 hands together. But I'm talking about when there's a chord, 3 notes or more, only being used by one hand. And so that happens already in these 4 opening melodies. And they're obviously 2 melodies, but they've got a statement and an answer, or a question and an answer, if you like. So the question is, and then the answer will be the chords, you know. Well, it's not really an answer, is it? But it's kind of like I'll call it the fuller question, if you like. So there are 2 fuller questions. doesn't make sense. Let's just call it an answer because it does become an answer. So that chord, okay, it does sort of have an answer to it. Okay, so there are two of them. It's in that sort of answer section, the chordal section of those two opening bits, and the bits that I've marked in red here. Yeah, here are the opening bits. There's the sort of question, the single line, and here's the chords, which I could call the answer. Okay, and here in the red is the real answer here. It's kind of a fuller question with chords, and then the full answer, the answer there, okay? And then it's the next melody on D, okay? And then there's the question, and then there's the answer a little bit. We could say the fuller question, and there's the answer again. Now these answers are both the same. That'll help you. They're both exactly the same. I've got them in red there. Okay? So I forgot to say that's a very important thing. The answers there to the questions as I put them are just the same. Easy. Another thing which will help is in those answers to those two questions there is a time when there's just the right hand, and that is on this chord here. It's the chord on the 8th measure and on the 16th measure, which is on the right hand. Have a look. It's this chord here. Okay, so it has gone like this. It's gone. Yeah. There. No, so both hands. Okay, like as it always has been, except at the very beginning. And then that comes off, and now it's just that. Okay, and then it comes to this again. Yep. And okay, that, and then yep. So I'm talking about the bit where it's just the right hand. That. Okay, that in measure 8 is on its own the right hand, so you'll be able to remember that. It happens again at the end of the second one, on the sort of answer to the second melody. That's in measure 16. This has helped me a lot, just to see the time when it's just the right hand without the left hand, because otherwise it's always two hands together, except the beginning of each of those two opening melodies. Okay, so that's going to be helpful too. Then you come into the chordal questions and answers, which are the next two groups, or four if you want, starting from measure 17, and that one, which is from 17 to 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24 to 25, to measure 25, has no separate left or right hands. Okay, all the other melody groups have a separate right hand, which is the measures I've told you, measure 8 and measure 16 for the opening two melodies. But on these next two melodies, this third of the four melodies does not have any separate hand, so that'll help you to remember as well. The fourth melody, you do get a separate hand, and that is okay. It's not 3 notes, but it's not an octave. It's in measure 24, 25, 26, 27. Yeah, it's in measure 27. No. Okay, and that is which the right hand is on E flat and C on its own on the right hand. So again, without the left hand. That will help a lot. So I would circle that time when there's just the the right hand. It's in, so take your pencil, go to measure 27. You'll see what I mean. There's no left hand accompaniment. And then circle measure 8 and measure 16, and the chord, which is just the right hand doing it. That'll help you, because otherwise you will get confused as to where you are in this opening page and half. So yeah, that's those are the main pointers I want to make, really. So I'll play it now, and I'll just tell you as I play it what I'm doing. So we begin like this. Okay, and here we go. Here's sort of, I'll call it number 1, the question. Here's the fuller question. It helps if you do it really slowly. There's that, sorry. Here's the right hand on its own. Okay? Alright. Now here's the next melody. Okay, the second question. Here. Do it slowly. And now here's the sort of answer, which is exactly the same as the answer which you just had in measure 8. Okay, it's exactly the same. It's the bit I circled in red. Okay, and twice with the F, and then G. Here's the right hand on its own. There we go. Okay, so that answer section we already had in measure 8. This is now measure 16. Now comes the more difficult chordal passages. Here we go. You can move that over to there. And there's no separate, remember in this number 3 there's no separate ones. Still right hand down here. Okay, that's the third melody. There's no separate hands there. Now here's the fourth and final one. What is it? Yep. Here. There on its own, right hand on its own, as it was for the first 2, and now and that goes to the G. Yeah. Sorry, no. Yes, that's right. Okay. And now going down here. Okay, so that's the opening bit. Then you got some easy bits with. Okay. Which need no explanation. And then after that, that's about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. This is 8 measures of sort of. That's like the coda, if you want, if you will, of that sort of a codetta in the it's not codetta, it's the end of that section. Then you got the melody, which I've talked about already. That can be split up into 4 sections as well, and I've talked about that in a previous video. And then after that, you have the beautiful bit, which is easy. This bit here. which you'll be doing if you do my system at the same time as you do the second impromptu, because you've been doing it 4, 3, 2. Okay, so as you've been doing number 4, you've been doing this really annoyingly, from a memorizing point of view, difficult bit at the beginning, which I've just been trying to help you with. Then when you go into the third impromptu, that's when you'll be doing the quite similar arpeggios in this impromptu. Okay, which I've explained about in a previous video. It's not too bad actually. I mean, it takes some getting used to. I'm talking from a memorizing point of view. It's not too bad, especially when you chop it up into the bits that I've recommended in my previous video. You get a few bits which repeat exactly, and etc, etc. And then when you're coming on to the second impromptu, that's when you will be doing this this beautiful part, which is I mean, to be honest, you could do, as you do that third impromptu, you could just do half of these, because it is quite an extensive part, to be honest. So if you just do half of them, that means from measure 36, 37, 38, 39, 40, 41 through to measure the beginning of measure 60, you will have done exactly half of the arpeggio section of the third side. That you can do at the same time as this third impromptu. So that when you're doing the fourth impromptu, and then doing it from measure 60, which is maybe a good way to actually split things up. So now you're doing this bit, so that it's the right hand is doing the arpeggio. Yeah, it does work out quite well, because the measures from bar 41 to measure 60, it's always the left hand doing the arpeggio, which is quite, because usually when you'll be doing that at the same time as you're doing impromptu number 3, and the arpeggios are mainly with the right hand, so that's a good contrast. Otherwise you might get a bit bored by doing just arpeggios, but here it's the third impromptu is the arpeggios are in the right hand, but you'll be doing it at the same time as the beginning of the arpeggio section from measure 41 of the first impromptu, and they are on the left hand. So that's in the left hand. So that actually works out really well. So, and then that means that when you come to the fourth impromptu, then you can do it from measure 60. And there, it's true that in the fourth, sorry, you'll be doing the second impromptu now, won't you? So you're doing the second impromptu, this. It's true that that is in the right hand arpeggios, as it is here, but you can't do anything about that. At least it's very different in character. It's allegro, it's a completely different speed. So that's what you'll be doing as you do this. And again, the next bit. That's you'll be doing that section as you do the second impromptu, which is, as I say, a different tempo, completely different tempo. So although it's melodies in the right hand mainly, as this is, it will be enough of a contrast to make it very pleasant to do at the same time. Which means by the time you finish the fourth impromptu, the third impromptu and the second impromptu, you will be able to do all the way up to the beginning of page 1, 2, 3, 4 of the fourth side of this first impromptu. You'll have gone all the way up to measure 73, which leaves you with this beautiful section. Which is easy, it's an easy part. And furthermore, that happens twice, and it's even more beautiful the second time. And then after that, you get into this march theme, which is again basic, easy. And so there's no problem once you've finished all the first three impromptus, yeah, and you've done all these first four sides of, first three and a bit sides of this first impromptu. It's just a joy to play this beautiful section, and it's so easy, and it goes straight into the march, which is so easy as well. It ends here, and it goes just repeated octaves. So I'll just play that for you. This is the bit that you will be playing once you've done everything as I've suggested. You've now done the fourth impromptu, third impromptu and second impromptu, plus the first three sides. And so with all this Schubert under your fingers, you're now going to do this easy and beautiful bit. So easy. Sorry. And now you're going down to this. Okay, this is such an easy and beautiful section. Now you're going to an easy and beautiful march.